What are you taking a look at, Krystal?
Well, Fox News on Friday, Laura Ingraham invited on John Taffer. He is host of Bar Rescue for a little chat about jobless workers. Here's how that went.
I'm not an economic professor. If you get $800 a week unemployment benefits, and you live with a partner who also is getting $800 a week unemployment benefits, $1,600 a week, Laura, $83,000 a year for that household in unemployment benefits. The median income in America is only $63,000. We're incentivizing people to stay home. What if we gave that additional unemployment benefits to employers to incentivize people to go to work?
Well, what if we just cut off the unemployment? I mean, hunger is a pretty powerful thing. I don't mean physical hunger, because people who truly are in need help. I'm talking about people who can work but refuse to work. But the government is literally putting anvils in many ways on people's shoulders, either through the mandates, regulations, and now through free money, which obviously we're all going to, the piper eventually has to be paid. John, I want to ask you, though, about this idea of work-life balance, because look, no one wants to miss their kids growing up. No one wants to. You stay in the office your whole life. You never see your family. So that's really important. However, have we taken that a step too far when you think of, well, a lot of the millennials talking about, well, I need time for self-care. I don't know why I'm harping on that tonight, but the whole self-care movement is a little. I mean, my mother is not with us anymore, but she worked by the time she was 12. During the Depression. If she heard the self-care thing, I think her head would explode.
I think that's right. I have a friend in the military who trains military dogs, Laura, and they only feed a military dog at night because a hungry dog is an obedient dog. Well, if we're not causing people to be hungry to work, then we're providing them with all the meals they need sitting at home. I'm completely with you, Laura. These benefits make absolutely no sense to us. And on top of the impact of not getting employees and not being able to run our businesses, in my industry, we have meat prices are up 10%, chicken prices are up 15%.
No, inflation is going to kill business. I mean, that's the next shoe to drop. The Democrats.
Wow. So they really kind of gave up the game there, didn't they? Just two millionaires casually suggesting that the jobless be cut off and starved like dogs to force them back into waiting tables, cooking meals, and serving drinks to the well-off. Worth noting that in the restaurant industry, Taffer is particularly focused on the tipped minimum wage as a whole, $2.13 per hour. Can't imagine why people might be reluctant to jump back in, especially with a variant surging that is freaking people out and keeping them home again. There is so much going on here, it's hard to honestly even know where to start. I do want to dispel this myth that somehow Americans are getting lazy and just going to spas for self-care all the time or indulging in endless mental health days. So in reality, Americans work more hours each week than their peers in other developed nations, 137 more hours per year than Japanese workers, 260 more per year than British workers, and 499 more hours per year than French workers. Not that I think that's a good thing, by the way. What's more, the typical American family works far more hours than their grandparents did in the days of yore Laura so fondly harkens back to, primarily because women have fully entered the workforce, layering full-time employment on top of the household duties, which women still primarily handle, and meaning that many households have two full-time workers rather than one, as was the case in those glory days of yesteryear. But the deeper issue here is that this whole way of thinking about human beings, business, and the economy is disturbing and downright sociopathic. Workers are not treated as people with needs and wants and dreams and aspirations. Nope. They are just the inefficient flesh robots used to get the wealthy their damn drinks, or drive them around, or clean their houses, or drop their packages on their doorstep. Any deviation from this absolute obedience is completely unacceptable, according to these people. Now, you could make a good deal with workers. You could lift their wages, you could give them health care, reasonable working schedules, etc. But that might impose some minor costs on the upper class. So, in the view of Laura, John, and by the way, plenty more like them, the solution is obvious. Just starve them. Threaten them with eviction, hunger, the desperate shame of poverty that America insists we heap upon the poor. Because in this sadly dominant worldview, workers exist to serve the rich and the macroeconomy rather than the economy existing to serve the people. This is the dominant ethos held not just by Republicans, but quite a few Democrats as well. After all, it was only under duress that the eviction moratorium was extended. The expanded unemployment program will be allowed to lapse, kicking millions of gig workers and freelancers off of that program. $15 minimum wage hike is nowhere near reality, even as Democrats control every single lever of power. Now, I should add, Taffer has apologized for his whole starve them like dogs comment, saying his remarks were, quote, an unfortunate attempt to express a desire for our lives to return to normal. I suppose for the rich, normal does in fact mean workers jumping right back into wage slavery. But don't be surprised if we hear more of these revealing quiet part out loud moments, elite panic about insubordinate workers accidentally being spoken in public rather than kept to the salons of the wealthy and the powerful where such talk is normally sequestered. Because actually, there are some signs that workers are becoming somewhat less obedient and experiencing a tiny uptick in power for the first time in a generation. In that way, I suppose Laura and Taffer are not wrong. Workers are being choosier in their employment. They're moving industries. They're seeing wage gains for the first time in 40 years. They're even striking and protesting and holding union elections. This very small assertion of power has been virtually unknown in America since the Reagan years. The starve them like dogs ethos has dominated through Democratic and Republican administrations alike, as the social safety net has been cut and cut and cut at the same time that taxes for the rich have been cut and cut and cut. But now there is a tiny glimmer of something a little bit different. A great rethink that I believe owes to at least three factors. First of all, the pandemic separated workers from their employment, forcing them to reconsider what they were doing, whether they wanted to or not. Second, some small but significant cash benefits were administered through direct aid, unemployment, and the child tax credit, which has in fact given folks a little bit of breathing room and ability to evaluate their options. And finally, the pandemic effectively took some of the social shame out of joblessness and out of struggle. The government instituted a society-wide policy of job loss, and they were upfront about it. Even the most skilled Fox News propagandists could not turn that state of affairs into some personal responsibility narrative. There was no bootstrapping during a pandemic that was killing hundreds of thousands and shuttering schools and businesses and everything else. So I suppose the powers that be are feeling a little bit nervous that they've lost their iron grip on the narrative and on those disobedient workers, starting to feel like something must be done here to get these workers back in line. Well, all I have to say is that if your plan is to starve workers like dogs, don't be surprised when they turn around and eat the rich. And Sagar, we were talking earlier about the way that... Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.